Welcome into the Jon and Lebo show. Alex Lebowitz here, John Sokoloff on the other side out in Ithaca, New York. I'm just outside of Boston in my home base. But we got another show for you, and we got a lot to talk about today. First, John, how you been? How's the week been? How's Monday and Tuesday? How's your Wednesday been so far?
It's been great, man. Sixers played well on Monday night. That was fun to see Simmons and Embiid. Bryan Cranston was in Curb on Sunday night. We got to mention that. Obviously.
I haven't seen it yet. Don't ruin it.
I'm not going to ruin it, but he was in it and he was hilarious. So it's, yeah.
Was he?
He was so funny. He looks great too, by the way. Everyone that's in that show just is really aged well. I'm telling you, every single person looks really good. Even Jeff.
You overestimate how long 7 years is, I think. But anyway. By the way, have you watched any more of Big Mouth?
That show is outrageous. I've seen the first episode. That was pretty much it.
I don't know how you just watched the first episode and not want to
Dude,
keep
I've
watching.
got The Sopranos right now. I've got Vice Principals. I'm a few episodes behind. Curb. I'm a man. I'm just a man. To quote Walter Nichols from Drake and Josh, I'm just a man.
Or Sam Smith, after all, I'm just a man.
Yeah.
Huh?
Pretty much.
All right, we had World Series action last night, and we have the World Series coming up. So that's what we'll talk about to start this off. Last night, rather, we're recording this Wednesday, early afternoon. The Dodgers beat the Astros 3-1 in LA. The sixth inning is when they broke it open. It was a Justin Turner home run to center field, a 2-run shot off of who was it off of? I got it in front of me.
It was off. What's it called? It was off.
Off of Dallas Keuchel. He got the loss in this one. Clayton Kershaw went 7 on 11 strikeouts, and a really good performance for him. I think we can finally say that Clayton Kershaw performs in the big moments.
It's so stupid. Such a small sample size. People are complaining about him in the playoffs. That frustrates me. He's literally the best pitcher I've ever seen. And people are saying
he's not the best.
Maybe not that, but the best lefty I've ever seen, definitely.
Randy Johnson was a lot better than him. Not a lot, but Randy Johnson.
I don't remember Randy Johnson that much.
He retired in 2009. He's been around. Or 2011, maybe.
His prime?
Randy Johnson's prime. He was way better than Clayton Kershaw. No offense. Clayton Kershaw is great. He also plays in the National League. And there's a difference. He's played in the NL West, and the Rockies and Diamondbacks have been pretty much garbage for the entirety of that, and with the exception of a 5-year span, you can say the same thing for the Giants during his career, at least. So I don't know. Clayton Kershaw is great. He's one of the best of his generation. He'll be a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. In the same conversation as a Randy Johnson, though, I think Randy Johnson's an all-time great.
Right. I'm just saying, me being completely coherent, big baseball fan, watching from that perspective, I'd say that he's the best I've seen. As I've actually been able to really watch baseball and analyze some of it. The game last night was sick. It was awesome to see him on the mound deal. Looked so intense. World Series in LA, we haven't seen that ever in our lifetime.
Yeah, it's been a very long time, and that's been a problem with this team. They've always had a good roster. They've always been a really good regular season team, and then the NLCS comes around and they kind of shit the bed in a way. But last night, Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers holding the Astros only 3 hits, which is pretty insane. The Astros did the same thing to the Yankees, Game 7 of the ALCS. Is that a problem on the road, swinging the bat? Does that concern you? Do you think that this offense has been a little bit too inconsistent to pull this off? Is this the Dodgers to lose?
I think it is. I think if they – I don't know about offensive inconsistencies, because once the World Series comes around, it's so tough to predict, people could start hitting, people could just stop. It's really hard to say, but tonight, I think the series is going to be defined by tonight because they got Verlander on the mound. They already lost with Keuchel. They got Verlander on the mound tonight. I don't think Houston's bullpen is good enough to stop a Dodgers lineup in these coming games with maybe Charlie Morton on the mound or McCullers. I think those guys are good, but to get great starts from your bullpen after starters are able to go 5 or 6 innings, I'm not quite sure if they'd be able to do that. I think if the Dodgers win the night with Rich Hill on the mound against Justin Verlander in LA, that's going to set them up to win this series. Up 2-0 after the 2 best pitchers are already off the mound. You got Darvish probably pitching Game 3, and that'll already set them up as heavy favorites to win that. So tonight is going to be everything for the Dodgers. They're a fun team, man. I got to say. Chris Taylor with a home run to start the game off last night. It's the 4th time in MLB history there was a leadoff home run in the World Series. But
yeah,
I gotta say, I think tonight it's not all or nothing for the Dodgers, but it's really going to be a lot more of a competitive series if they win with Verlander on the mound as opposed to if Rich Hill, the old Long Island Duck product, gets it done.
Of course. And the Red Sox had a chance of signing Rich Hill, and the reason he did not sign with the Red Sox was because they did not promise him a spot in the starting rotation. One of the biggest mistakes they've made in the past 3 years. Which, it sucks to see him this good. It's great because it's an unbelievable story, but it sucks that the Red Sox lost out a young candidate, essentially. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. But on the flip side, if you're the Astros, you take one on the road in the first 2 games, that sets you up very well. You have Verlander on the mound tonight, who's one of the best pitchers in the league. And you know what? Honestly, I'd go with Verlander in a big game over Clayton Kershaw. I think Verlander is one of the best pitchers in the game. He's probably been the best pitcher in the past 10 years, in my opinion. He plays in the AL. He was really consistent with the Tigers. And at least since 2012, he has performed at the highest stage.
He's so good. He's definitely a Hall of Famer.
He's been unbelievable. He will end up being a Hall of Famer. I mean, both Clayton Kershaw and Justin Verlander will be Hall of Famers, but Verlander will come out tonight and he will perform. Like you can count on that. He's gonna have a good game. And they have to. Their backs are up against the wall. I know anytime you're down in the World Series, that's the case. So you have your best pitcher on the mound. Because again, I'd go Verlander over anyone else in this series on the mound. You have to come out and perform. My only problem is you have Rich Hill, who's a guy who I don't think the Astros have that much of a sample size. Actually, you know what? They probably do, because Rich Hill pitched for the Athletics. So they were both in the same division. I'm sure Altuve and Correa and Bregman, they've all seen Rich Hill's stuff before. They're obviously going to have scouting reports, but Rich Hill's a good pitcher for a reason. He's been unbelievable.
Were the Astros in the AL West by the time Rich Hill was in?
Yeah, yeah. For a couple of years at that point.
Gotcha.
So they've definitely faced him. They definitely played this guy, and they're definitely familiar with him. I don't think you can say the same thing for the Dodgers in regard to Justin Verlander. How often are they playing the Detroit Tigers? How often are those guys facing this guy and Verlander? It's going to be a good matchup tonight. I'm expecting to see another good game. It's game 1, and it was still a narrow win. It was 3-1. People are acting like it was this big lopsided victory. Justin Turner hit a home run in the 6th inning, and that was the difference. That's essentially what we're dealing with. I look at this being a series that could easily go 7 games, and I think that will be the case. Just because of how evenly matched these two teams are. They both have ridiculously deep starting rotations. I give the edge to the Dodgers with their bullpen. Jansen's a really good closer.
He's been great, yeah.
But both lineups are stacked. This could go either way. And I think, I was talking about this on my other podcast, calling it with Alex Barth. We interviewed Jerry Trupiano, and we were talking about the same exact thing. This is the first time that I think this is the most talented collective World Series that we've seen in a very long time. Both of these teams
extremely long time.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at this. Could we have got a more overall talent, top to bottom World Series? If we wanted, I don't think we could. I really don't. I think the Cubs aren't that great. I think they're getting old, and the Yankees, they're still. I just don't think they're as talented as the Astros. It's just a fact to me that they're not. So this is the most fun I think it could have been, and it's just going to be so unpredictable. It's really going to come down to just who plays better each night. It's so boring to say, but every night, who knows? Is Verlander going to be able to have another dominant start? Is he going to give up maybe 2 runs, and that won't be enough because Rich Hill will dominate? Who knows? Maybe next game Darvish shits the bed. There's so many small components of it that people can't really control. That's what has me excited about it.
Yeah, and I think that's the main point here is, Verlander gives up 2 runs, that could be the difference. Rich Hill, he's not going to be getting shelled tonight. He's someone who you can rely on to come in and give you 6 or 7 strong innings. And I'd say Verlander's the same way. This is going to be another really low scoring game between 2 teams with unbelievable lineups, and that's just a testament to the type of pitching we're going to see in this series. And again, it's just such a stacked World Series. Every pitching matchup is awesome, because what we got, it'll probably be Darvish and McHugh or Peacock or maybe Morton for the Astros. All these guys have performed so far, which is what you love to see. And this is good for baseball. Another interesting thing is, the Yankees aren't as good, and I think we all can admit that they don't have the roster. No one thought they'd get to this point. So obviously the season has been a major success for New York, but maybe for the MLB, it would have been better if they were in, just from a marketability standpoint, to have the Yankees back on top. I think it's always good for baseball. These are still two big markets. This has still been a really good postseason for baseball. I think we're seeing a lot more of a resurrection of the sport. I saw something that came out this past week that says the median age, or the mean age, for an MLB fan has gone from 51 to 57 over the past 11 years. And that only people under 17 only make up 7% of baseball fans, which is a big problem. Right now, what we're seeing, I think, is ultimately good. You have a lot of young stars, and I think they're being showcased in this series. So this has been a really fun postseason. It hasn't disappointed, and I think the MLB product, has been great. And I also think that Rob Manfred is the best commissioner in sports right now, and it's unfortunate that baseball doesn't get the recognition I think it deserves.
Did you see last night? The game was 2 hours and 20 minutes.
There you go, and we need more of that.
That's how you relate to younger fans. Definitely, getting just big stars on each, like Keuchel, Kershaw, 3-1 game, quick game, some homers. Like, it's just that's the type of game you relate to. But who do you have winning this series? Because I know it's such a toss-up, and I think the fate of this series is really going to be decided tonight.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. It's so hard to predict. If I was to predict who it was, it would just be a shot in the dark. I don't know. I think this is a toss-up. I know that's kind of a cop-out, but it could be either one of these teams. I don't think we've seen a World Series that's this evenly matched in a long time, with two teams that are so well-rounded. I think that's the main thing. They're both extremely well-rounded teams, that it's going to come down to, like, most of these games are going to come down to, like, 1 or 2 runs. And when that's the case, it's so hard to guess who's going to come out on top. The Dodgers, they had an unbelievable run in the middle of the season. They were on pace for 116 games. They kind of lost their stride there towards the end of the season, losing, 22 or 26. Dodgers have been a little bit more consistent this season, obviously winning 2 games at home against the Yankees, being down 3-2 after blowing a 2-0 lead. That's going to give you a bit of a boost. But I don't know, man. I think tonight is really a big test for the Astros. If they come out on top, this is going 7 games, and it could still go either way. If the Dodgers win, then I'm going to pick them to win the series, and that could be as soon as 6 games. So
I think if you take a look at, like, tonight, like, say the Dodgers win tonight and they win over Verlander in LA. I think this is the first time Verlander's pitching on the road these playoffs.
No, he pitched against I saw him pitch in the LDS against the Sox.
Well,
he came out of the bullpen
in a while, because last year he didn't.
He didn't start against the Red Sox, though. They had, I think it was McCullers or Morton started. It was game 4, and he came in and pitched a few innings. He actually got shelled a little bit. It was unbelievable. I don't want to go into that because it was a while ago, but he has pitched on the road. So
right, I'm just saying, like, tonight, if say this, it's going to go 2 ways here. If the Astros win tonight, they have all the leverage, all the momentum going home with a 1-1 series. Like, they'll have that all. If the Dodgers win, then the Astros game 3 will be like a game 7 for them. They'll have to go in and they'll have to hit Darvish and hit him hard and get, like, I'd say, like 5 or 6 runs out of him, I would think, to give their offense some life. Because if they lose to Darvish game 3 and they lose tonight, I think they're all but done.
And this is another thing. You talk about Rich Hill, formerly pitching for the Athletics. Yu Darvish is just on the Rangers. So they have plenty of experience against Yu Darvish. They know what he brings. And I don't know what his career numbers are against the Astros or his numbers from this season. Because remember, he was a late addition. He was a late addition for the Dodgers. So you got to give the Astros a bit of an edge, just given their familiarity with this pitching staff. With the Dodgers, so it'll be fun to see. Just one thing before we do a live read: the Red Sox, they got a new manager in Alex Cora. We got to touch on it. I know it wasn't in the rundown, but I completely forgot to put it in. Alex Cora come to the Red Sox. I feel like anytime a manager is announced in the MLB and it's a first-time guy, there's always a lot of hope. There's always a lot of questions and a lot of speculation of how he will do what he will do. But my initial thoughts, I'm happy for it. Anyone but John Farrell, I think he'll be more well respected in that Red Sox clubhouse. And I don't know, as a fan, I love the I just really like not knowing what this guy brings to the table and kind of having to wait and see how he'll do and how this clubhouse will react to him. That said, they need to make more moves. I'm excited to see what the Red Sox do this offseason, who they'll get rid of, who they'll bring in. But I think Alex Cora is definitely a step in the right direction for this team.
We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we're going to talk Eric Bledsoe and his Twitter antics and what he's done to the Phoenix Suns and where they're at. So before we get into that, I just want to remind everyone this Saturday, Bombers football, Ithaca, Utica, on the road. Wahid Nabi, actually, Ithaca quarterback, was 21 for 24, set the completion percentage record for football history with 87.5%. I'll have the call with myself, Connor Weingarten, JJ Klein.
They're playing Union? Did you
at
say?
1 o'clock. Utica, not Union. The team your brother used to play for. That's next week, actually.
I hear that's going to decide who wins the Liberty League. That's what my brother was telling me. Potentially.
Probably not, because if RPI has to lose one game in the Liberty League, but if they do, then yeah, it would. But yeah, RPI, it depends on them as well. But I know you saw the Eric Bledsoe stuff, him tweeting, "I don't want to be here," after the Suns 0-3 start, and they just looked awful. It was after their 42-point loss to the Clippers. This is huge. This is a Suns team that just has a lot of young assets that really has no veteran leadership. None. Eric Bledsoe is one of their bigger veterans. He's on a great deal because he's a scorer, shooter, explosive guy. He's had some injuries, but I think he's on a solid contract. He's got 2 years left, this year, next year, of about 16, 17 million per year, I think, which now with the cap going up, I think it's a pretty fair trade for a guy that brings that kind of fire and veteran leadership to a team like that. The Phoenix Suns have disappointed him, and I think he's disappointed them. He tweeted out, "I don't want to be here." And then when he met with McDonough, the GM of the Suns, he said that it was about a hair salon appointment, him being in a hair salon. And then the Suns sent him home, and McDonough is obviously aggressively looking to trade him now. I think you have to do that as a GM. I think that was a good move in the sense of you got to make sure that people know you don't take shit. You got to make sure people know, like, you're not going to tolerate anything like that for a player, unless, like, obviously it's someone who is a real superstar caliber, and Eric Bledsoe is definitely like that. I don't know where he's going to go. I know they have no leverage on any deal. I know some team's going to get him for cheap, maybe like a first, maybe like a solid older player, or maybe like a first-round pick and like a half-contract dump, half-veteran guy like Mozgov or something like that. But I think this tweet just shows the frustration he has with the organization, and I guess they're frustrated with him too, but he's had it. I mean, they have no veterans around him. They have Tyson Chandler, who, yeah, he's getting older. He's a veteran, but I don't know how much he is. Maybe he's just in it for the money now, because last year, Kenyon Martin was talking about something on The Herd, which really caught my attention, how Tyson Chandler used to be one of the most competitive centers he's ever played against. And even one game in the finals, they were going at it with each other, or I don't think the finals or the playoffs, whatever, but Tyson Chandler was the starting strong center next to Dirk for the Mavs when they won it all. And now he's on the Suns getting into pictures with Devin Booker after Devin Booker dropped 70 points and they lost. And Tyson Chandler's in the picture after a loss smiling with him. Kenyon Martin was very disappointed in him, and I thought that was a cool thing to say, and it gave me a lot of insight. Maybe Tyson Chandler's lost that competitive edge. So the Suns really don't have any veteran leadership, and now they're getting rid of one of their biggest vets. It's only going to set them back more. What, are they going to get another good young player? If you have a team of young players, how are they going to grow? The veterans in the locker room are so huge for teams like this. Look at a team like the Sixers, 2014-15. Yeah, granted, they were tanking, but it was awful. They had nobody. They had no veterans. Their best player was an 18-year-old Jahlil Okafor who doesn't play anymore, and they had no old guys around him at all.
John,
that's how the Suns are.
I mean, there's a lot to unravel there. Here's the thing. You have a guy who's supposed to be a veteran leader, and he goes on social media and tweets out, "I don't want to be here." How that you don't keep that guy? That guy's a cancer in that locker room. What he did is inexcusable, completely unprofessional, and a horrible look. And it also puts the Suns in a shit position because now they got to sell this guy short. They're not going to get the same amount that they would get if he didn't tweet that, because now everyone else has a leverage. They're trying to get rid of him. McDonough said they're trying to get rid of him. This puts their organization in a horrible place, and it's completely unprofessional. Who's going to want a guy like that? Who's going to want a guy like that? And I understand they might not have good veteran leadership, But like, shouldn't you expect a guy who's been in the league for what 6 years now, 7 years, to be someone who you can look up to? And Tyson Chandler on top of that, they brought guys in who they thought could lead. Evidently, they can't. What I'm confused about is after he tweets that, Earl Watson gets fired. Like, what? I want to know more about why that was, and if it was related or unrelated.
No, I think he got fired and then he tweeted that.
Was that okay? So
Yeah,
that was the order of it. Okay. I think it's a shit show in Phoenix. I think that Eric Bledsoe completely ruined his image in the NBA. I don't think a lot of teams are going to want to have anything to do with him because of that. And it's just unprofessional. It's kind of a divas league, and that's the type of thing that happens in a divas league. Not that all the players are like that, but there are a lot of them that do this type of stuff. And I just think it's inexcusable. I think it's ridiculous. And I like the way that McDonough's handling the situation, because you can't have a guy like that on the team, especially when you got young, impressionable players who don't know what it's like to be in the NBA. If you're hearing from this veteran to say, you got to speak out on social media when things aren't going, like, no, that's not the way to do it. Horrible look for him. He comes away looking worse than anyone else. In regard to Tyson Chandler, the guy's a 32-year-old center, and you said it. He made his money off of being this enforcer, being this rebound machine. This guy who's just super physical. He's beat up. He's worn down. He's still playing to make some money, but he's not playing competitively. He knows his clock's winding down. You got to get some veteran guys in there. I think this gives
You're right.
This gives them the opportunity to bring someone in who might have a bigger contract. Maybe, who knows, maybe the Sixers trade, probably not, but maybe someone trades a veteran who has a lot of money left just to even the caps out, to get Bledsoe out of there, and to give Josh Jackson, Devin Booker, someone who is not a complete shithead who will tarnish them. And you already had personality issues with a guy like Josh Jackson, so the last thing you need is an Eric Bledsoe in there to completely ruin that.
Yeah, and the Suns, okay, yeah, maybe they'll trade a first-round pick or something. How many young players are they going to have until they can wake up and decide that they need veterans? Devin Booker, T.J. Warren, Josh Jackson, Dragon Bender, Alex Len, all these guys. Yeah, they've got young, good players that are all top picks. When's it going to end? When are you going to bring in guys that are veteran leaders? Tyson Chandler's not that. Eric Bledsoe's not that. When are they going to make that change?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Maybe that's their next offseason move. Also, when are they going to bring in a coach that they trust? I think it is a really bad look to you have your interim coach and you give him the job, which is great. Three games into the next season, you fire him. I just don't understand what that's all about. I think that's just horrible evaluation, and they probably second guess giving him the role in the first place. If that's the position you're in, interview other people. Try to give the job to someone else. And they did not do that. Instead, they rolled the dice with this guy, and 3 games in, they fired him. There must be some story behind it, but it's just a horrible look, and there's a lot of dysfunction in Phoenix, which seems to be beyond repair right now. And they got talent. That's the bad thing. I don't know. Another thing that was brought up on Twitter is like how much of an idiot does Josh Jackson feel like to not work out for the Celtics now that he's with probably the most dysfunctional organization in the NBA.
Maybe not the most dysfunctional, but they're definitely up there.
Okay, the Knicks are probably more dysfunctional than them.
They're bottom 3 for sure. I'll give you bottom 3 definitely.
Absolutely.
But look at just where do they go from here? You fire your coach after 3 games. You have your best player, one of your only vets, request a trade. He can't stand it anymore. He wants out. Where do you go from here? Like, and look, firing your coach after 3 games, yeah. Mike Brown and what was fired after 4 games in the Lakers, but that was a team with Steve Nash, Dwight Howard, Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, a team that was supposed to win. They were 1-3. So I get that. A team of young guys who are trying to really just build up momentum and try to build up like a core around them, and you're stunting their growth like that. I think it's inexcusable. Phoenix is in a really bad place.
All right. Just to remind you guys, Pigskin Press Pass Friday night. Be on following the UMass Lowell Riverhawks men's hockey game. And I'll be taking you up until 11 o'clock. It'll probably be around 9:30 to 11. And I'll be discussing high school football in the area. Playoffs start this week in MIAA football. They have a really weird playoff structure, John. They play the first 6-7 weeks of the season. Johnny there? Sorry about
Yeah.
that. I cut out there for a second. So they have 6 weeks of the season, and they have seeding through divisions 1 through 8 in the MIAA. This week's week 1. They have about 3 rounds, and then you have Thanksgiving game, which is your yearly rivalry, which has no bearing on the season, but it's a fun little thing. And then you have the Super Bowl at the end of the year. I think it's December 3rd. So this is the start of that. Week 1 of the playoffs. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is really where the show ramps up, and I'm really looking forward to it. A lot of games going on this weekend. There'll be really good competitions. A lot of games that'll be blowouts because you got the 1 through 8 seeds on top of that. So please listen into that 980 WCAP in Lowell, 980 AM on your radio dial. You can also go 980 WCAP on your TuneIn app. All right, John, NFL. What are we talking about first? We got Carson Wentz, I believe. His progression has been unbelievable, and he's been a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, MVP candidate. Do you put him in the top 3 right now overall?
I think as right now of active quarterbacks, considering Luck, Rodgers, both those guys out, Brady obviously still better than him. But yeah, I do. I think he's better right now than any of those guys. I think he might be number 2 in the NFL if you ask me.
Over Alex Smith, because Alex Smith is low-key having a really, really good year.
Right. But those two are Carson Wentz, man. What he's been able to do for this offense, the Eagles don't have a defense like the Chiefs do. Up front, maybe they do, but in that secondary, the Chiefs just outmatched them. The Chiefs just outmatched them heavily with Ronald Darby being hurt. The Eagles have a lot of injuries on defense, which we'll talk about when we discuss who the best team in the NFC is. But I think Carson Wentz is definitely playing like MVP candidate. He's definitely top 3 in my opinion. He extends plays. He's tough in the pocket. He gets hit, but he's able to bounce back from those, even when their line isn't doing great to protect him. He definitely is MVP candidate. I think the Eagles have done a great job developing him and turning him into what he is. And Monday night now, Alex, are 6-1, and I think that win last night solidified them to win the NFC East.
So let me ask you this. You're the perfect person to answer this question, being a Raiders fan from Philly. Who would you rather, if you had to start a franchise today, who would you want as your quarterback for the future, Derek Carr or Carson Wentz?
Well, it depends what the franchise is, honestly. Like it's really tough. I think right now, they're both playing extremely well. One was MVP candidate last year, one was this year. Both teams are in different situations. The Eagles have a lot better of a defense than the Raiders do. So that's why the Raiders haven't been as successful. Derek Carr played bad a couple games, but as of right now, Wentz is playing better. But in terms of playing styles, I think Carson probably has more upside because just with what we've seen from him. But Derek Carr, they're just different quarterbacks, Alex. Like Derek Carr is more of a pocket passer. He can extend plays a little bit. Wentz is better at that. Derek Carr is better at reading blitzes and defenses. I think he's a little bit more of a smarter quarterback at this stage. But I was going to say Carr can throw a better deep ball, but on Monday Night Football, Carson Wentz proved that he can. But as of right now, some are better than others, so they're really hard to compare. I really think so.
Another question, just kind of big picture. The NFL has a lot of really talented young quarterbacks right now. Do you think that this pool of young quarterbacks is better than what we've seen in the past? I'm talking, Deshaun Watson starting to play well, Mariota, Carr, Wentz. Who else we got? There's a couple others that are slipping my mind, but even Winston, if you want to include him, although he's kind of been a little bit Dak Prescott. So you got a lot of really young quarterbacks. What's your impression of this young quarterback class, and do you think it's better than what we've seen in the past 10 years?
I think it's great. I think the core of those like 2011 and 2012 guys, the Luck, Newton, and also Luck, Newton. Who else was around there?
RG3?
2011, Russell Wilson, RG3. Yeah. Those guys were getting their own way. The 2014 on guys, like from them to 2016, those guys are all doing great. I think, all the quarterbacks in this league now, well, how many quarterbacks do we have drafted like pre-2010? Like Alex Smith, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, like those guys, yeah. But
Matt Stafford.
The league is going in a different direction, and these quarterbacks now they're getting so good and so quick. That's the thing that's impressed me the most with them, I think.
Yeah, the position's evolving. That's why you got a guy like Carson Wentz who can extend plays, who runs outside the pocket. And Aaron Rodgers has always done that, but he was kind of an anomaly given, the generation of football he came from. So you do see that a lot. Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Carson Wentz. They're all guys who can throw on the run. Dak Prescott. So the position's definitely evolving. But you see what's happened to Cam Newton. He's not what he used to be. He's gotten banged up. Jameis Winston, he hasn't even proven himself yet, in my opinion. And he's someone who probably won't have that long of a career given how many hits he takes. So it's tough. Let's move on, though. The Eagles, 6-1. You mentioned it. Are they the best team in the NFC, or are they the NFC Championship favorites?
Because of how bad the NFL is right now, yeah. As of right now, I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFC, but they've got a lot of injuries, so I don't think they're the NFC's favorites. You got Jason Peters, left tackle, going down. He's down for the year. Tore ACL. Yeah, he tore his ACL. He's out. Who knows if he'll ever be able to come back from that. He's getting old. He probably will because he's a tank. Jordan Hicks tore his Achilles, a defensive player, linebacker. He's out as well. Fletcher Cox has been banged up. The secondary, Ronald Darby, their starting corner, he's banged up as well. A lot of defensive injuries. The health is the main problem for this team. Doug Peterson and the whole team has shown a lot of grit this season, but Malcolm Jenkins has also been a top safety in football. But looking at everything from a big perspective, they just got to be healthy. I mean, Carson Wentz can't keep taking all these hits. He was taking a lot of hits on Monday night. So if he gets hurt, it's all over. It's all ruined. I mean, their offense is expanded with Torrey Smith and Alshon Jeffrey. Aguilar's playing out of his mind. But at the same time, it's tough to tell. I think if they're healthy and they stay healthy and they're able to, fill in the holes of these injuries, yeah, they're the NFC's favorites. They're an above average team in any other year in the NFL, but now this year, because of how bad everyone is, they're the best team in the NFC by default. I think they're better than the Cowboys. The Cowboys' defense is a lot worse than the Eagles, and no one else really challenges them in the NFC East. So I don't know. I mean, the NFC South, no one's really scary from there. The NFC West, I mean, the Rams. Like, come on. I'll never trust the Rams until they make the playoffs. 4-2. They've been 4-2 this year and last year, and they've just really fallen off. I like McVay, but, yeah, I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFC, especially with Rodgers going down. It really solidifies it.
I think right now, yeah. Well, I mean, if Rodgers is still around to the Packers, just given the fact that Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback. I also look at the Seahawks, and I've been saying this since week one. I don't care if they're not performing that well. They're going to make the playoffs. That's all that really matters. Once they get in the playoffs, I expect them to do pretty well. It's a veteran team that's been there before, and they're well coached. Although I don't know if they're as well coached as they have been in past years. I think Pete Carroll maybe has lost some of those guys in that locker room. Richard Sherman to name more of them. So I don't know. I still look at the Seahawks as a veteran team that's the one to beat. I think the Eagles, what they've done has been really good, but you said it. They benefited off of a very weak NFC. Not only a very weak NFC, but an extremely underwhelming NFC East. That division is supposed to be the best in football, and right now, the Redskins are okay. The Cowboys are 500 right now, and the Eagles are the only team that's performed well. And the Giants, obviously, they're going to have a top 3 pick in the draft. Who expected that coming into the season? So They've essentially benefited from that. When they go up against a veteran team, though, like the Seahawks in the playoffs, are they going to win? If they make it to the Super Bowl, they go up against the Patriots, they're not going to win that game. They get shellacked. They're just not. They're not well rounded enough. You need to have either a good defense or just an unstoppable offense. I don't really think they have either. I think they have a really good quarterback who's played out of his mind this season. So it's going to be interesting to see how the chips fall, but right now they are by default the best team in the NFC. I'm still not sold on them coming out of the NFC in the to make it to the Super Bowl. I think they have a lot more to prove. I think Carson Wentz still needs to win some of these bigger games. He's done everything he can so far, but I want to see how he reacts in the playoffs. Maybe they go on a run. Who knows? Maybe their defense comes together. Who knows? But you mentioned it. Jason Peters' injury is huge. He's not going to be able to have the same time in the pocket. He's not going to be able to extend plays like he used to without one of the better left tackles in the game, out for the season. That's a massive loss. And their defense, again, also, not a ton of depth there. And they've dealt with injuries. The Eagles are all right, but we've kind of beaten a dead horse here. The past few weeks, what have we been saying? This has been an extremely underwhelming year in the NFL. It's been very evenly matched, but there's no top-tier team. And one thing we haven't touched on is the Patriots look like the Patriots this past weekend. They're now the number 1 team in the NFL, so they solidified themselves as that. They were hitting on all cylinders, and they're the one team that's had a game that's proven that they are, good from top to bottom. Their defense looked really good. Their offense was clicking, and even their special teams was really good. So I think given that that's the fact, that's a team to beat. Obviously, they're not in the NFC, but I don't know. There's really no top-notch team outside of the Patriots, in my opinion. The Chiefs have lost a couple straight. The Steelers, they're always kind of what they are. And outside of those two teams in the AFC, who else do you really got? So it's been an interesting year. It's going to be interesting to see how this season shapes up. But I'd say by default, Eagles best team in the NFC. Any final thoughts on the NFL from this past week?
I just think that the Pats obviously showed a lot more, but between them and the Eagles, the Saints are looking even better too now. But it's still just going to be a crapshoot, and it's still kind of early to tell, I think, based on these first 7 weeks. I feel like everyone's either 3-4, 4-3, or just a lot worse.
Yeah, but that proves that there's not a lot of well-rounded teams, a lot of inconsistent teams. And one thing that we've seen, at least from a Patriots perspective, they've had guys who have clicked, who started to kind of come into their own. A lot of role players on that defense. Malcolm Butler's looked really good the past couple of weeks, and Stephon Gilmore and Eric Rowe have been out. So they still have those guys coming back. Their secondary will be a little bit better, and their linebacking core has looked, much more sound. So I'm excited for the Pats. I think another team that's been underwhelming is the Raiders.
Yeah,
which benefits the Patriots. So it'll be interesting to see. But that's gonna do it. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Jon and Lebo Show. I'm at Alex_Lebowitz. You have what, Jay Socky 95?
J_Sokoloff, SOKOLOFF.
Did you change it? It used to be Jay Socky 95, didn't it?
Yeah, I changed it the same time you did.
Oh yeah, I remember that. All right. So we'll be back, same time, same place next week. Make sure you tune in. Bye.